Hello and welcome to the live stream. Today we are doing something a little bit different because normally, obviously, I do these as solo streams, but today we are joined by an awesome member of the Digital Stage Academy and just an all-round great guy as well. But also, I happen to think a little bit of an AI genius. And the reason for having this discussion today is that I think that there's a lot of people who are still kind of not really using AI, certainly not to its full potential, but actually just not even using it. And I think that when you are in certain circles where we're talking about it all the time, I mean, in our office hours sessions that we have twice a week in the academy, it's a huge topic that we talk about, at length and how we're harnessing it, how we're using it, and it's easy to feel like, that that's just kind of normal. But I appreciate that maybe it's not quite where everyone else is with it, and also the level to which people are going with AI, beyond just simple prompts and so on, it's just really scratching the surface of what is possible. And so I wanted to talk really today with David about, first of all, just an introduction more to the idea of prompt engineering and some things that are maybe the non-obvious things that people might not have thought about, but then also go deeper to how you can basically just sort of automate so many different workflows in your business. You can create different agents and sort of automation workflow chains and things like that that are just going to allow you to do so much more, and also introduce it into businesses where maybe you think that, well, AI can't really help me. Maybe you've got a business that you think doesn't necessarily suit the use of AI. Well, you'd be surprised at how many different ways you can actually incorporate AI into your business. So with that said, this is just going to be a free-flowing conversation with one or two demos, I'm sure, by David. So let's just bring in the man himself. Hey, David, great to see you. David Cruwys from his channel, Appy Dave. I've left all the links to all of the other different channels and things you're working on as well down in the description. But hello and welcome.
G'day, Alec. Thanks for having me on today.
You're welcome. It's I mean, we talk weekly in our office hour sessions, and it's always an interesting conversation. So I thought, it needs to not be sandboxed. We need to get this
Fair
conversation
enough.
out into the broader world. But perhaps you could
Yeah.
talk, just give a little bit more of an introduction, obviously, about sort of what you're doing and about what you're doing with your channels and things like that, and the sort of the background and direction that you're going in at the moment.
Sure. I'm running multiple YouTube channels. I guess I got on this YouTube journey in 2019 based on really dark depression, and I'd done this uh, daily gratitude journal under Sydney Harbour Bridge. It was called Gratitude Bridge, and it was about 365 days. And I was trying to use gratitude as a way to get out of dark depression, and that went for about 220 days before I had a job opening over in Las Vegas. Couldn't do it under the Harbour Bridge anymore. And it kind of opened my eyes up to YouTube. Now, nothing about what I was doing was designed around a business or educating people. It was just it was therapy, to be honest. That's
Hmm.
that's what it was. And then about 2.5 years ago, just before ChatGPT Plus came out, I'd I had the opportunity to go to Thailand on a holiday. I thought I want to live here and I want to be a content creator. Don't know how that came about.
Hmm.
It just happened, and I went there on a holiday, but I went back and lived there because my job allowed me to work remotely. I've been a computer programmer for over 30 years, and I started this little video channel called Fly Video. And I thought at the time I was going to do a YouTube channel around YouTube automation. I wanted to automate, use my software development skills to automate the YouTube flows.
Hmm.
And it never happened. I think 5 months I worked on that channel, got to 18 what would today be classed as shorts out. And it was a hard slog. I just didn't realize how hard the YouTube journey was,
Hmm.
because even my previous channel, I think things started at 12 hours a day, and by the 220th day they were 2 hours a day. So I had reduced the timelines each day. But yeah, so from there, I ChatGPT comes out, and as a software developer I knew exactly what it was. I got involved with the actual product that first week, when they got 1 million people in a week, sort of stuff.
Hmm.
And the number one thing that occurred to me with this product was that it was a game changer. I hadn't heard a lot of the analogies that came out a few months later. Like there's this there's this idea of pivotal points in human history,
Hmm.
and we can all name them. That's the fire, it's the wheel, it's the metal lathe, which launched the Industrial Revolution, it's the printing press, then the computer, then the internet. And I think it's Sam Altman made this statement that for the first time in human history, of all the things that we've learnt to scale, the only thing we'd never learnt to scale was human intelligence. And that's what ChatGPT Plus was showing people to the world. And I then started, I think I was under my third channel then, I started winning prompts because I realized that the number one thing we needed in this in this world of AI was we needed to know how to talk to the computer. And that's what prompt engineering is about. In fact, whenever I'm talking to people, especially people ask the question, what do you want to do? Where should I start with AI? That's where you start.
Hmm.
If you can't talk to it, it doesn't matter the tools, you'll never use them effectively. So yeah, that then led to Appy Dave Original, not the one, not my current channel. That got 4,000 watch hours and 2,500 subscribers in a week
That was
from nothing.
pretty astounding. You know?
It was,
Yeah.
and I abandoned that channel for really dumb reasons. And then I started my current Happy Dave channel, and it's been a bit more of a slog to get up to 2,000
Hmm.
subscribers. So that's I guess the general journey, and this love of prompt engineering is not the only thing I love about AI, but it's certainly my foundation
Hmm.
um, stuff because I think it's the most important thing.
I think one of the unique things for me about you is when you're talking about AI, you've always got this angle on it where you are coming from like a coding background and thinking about like you've obviously got the the coding mindset about it and thinking like, oh, how could well, aside from all the actual coding that you're doing, building platforms and things like that that are hooking into all the APIs, but there's very much that sort of structured, logical like process flow that you seem to have like in your approach to it as to how you can string these things together to create something really special. How?
Yeah, I think I think like I am a developer, but I'm more a software architect. And why I mention that is that when you're doing software architecture versus development, you're thinking more from an abstract
Hmm.
theoretical point of view.
Yep.
And I remember having this conversation once with a theoretical mathematician, and it was such an interesting conversation, not because I understood it. I absolutely didn't understand it, but I understood his way of looking at the world from abstract concepts.
Hmm.
And this is what I found so interesting with prompt engineering. One of my early videos on the Winning Prompts channel was not so much about how to do a prompt, because everyone was talking about that. Oh, here's a prompt to do a blog post.
Yes. Yep.
But really, that there are classifications of prompts.
Hmm.
When you think of there's a prompt to create a blog post, what you're really saying is that you're in the classification of creational prompts.
Hmm.
Um, but once you've created that uh, blog post, you've got a bunch of transformational prompts that go along to make sure everything's correct. Like you might have deep research prompts going in there. You might have statistical generation prompts going in there. But at the end of the day, you can't even release a video or a prompt or an article or anything unless and this is my value, not what people do. This is just how I value things,
Hmm.
is that you can't release an article unless it's gone through a QA process.
Yep.
And these are all types of prompts. They're in software engineering, we would call them a design pattern. In prompt engineering, I would call it a prompt pattern, that if you understand the prompt patterns, the actual prompts themselves become uh, much easier to put together.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that when you say it actually like that, the software architect, That makes total sense because very much, you know, the examples that you always share with us in the office hours and things like that, they're very much like an architectural work from, you know, as speaking as a past architect in a previous life.
Yeah,
You know, it
yeah.
is very much like, you know, these are the building blocks. How do we string them all together? How do we put things together so that it becomes more than just you know, basic prompting? But I mean, that's kind of what I said right at the beginning as well. I think that so many people, the ones that are you know, leveraging AI, they're still at that very basic sort of prompt stage where they, you know, they're going in, write me an article or do me this or do that, or you know, whatever it happens to be. Have you got any advice for like folks that are like at that stage, ways that they could maybe even at that very basic level structure their prompts in a better way, or how can you just like a very basic level of prompting, are there any
Sure.
like tips you've got there that could help?
How about I demonstrate, mate?
Absolutely, yeah, go for it.
Demonstrate. I was actually going to talk about something else. I might bring it up first, actually. Let's just pop into not that. Let's pop into that. And so generally what I like to talk about for people is prompt engineering, uh, prompt workflows, designing AI agents, automating those agents, and then ultimately simplifying them. But I'll firstly talk about prompt engineering just from a structural point of view. And then I might just do just a basic demonstration on how people can do it when they haven't had a tutorial.
Cool.
Because I think a lot of people, when you ask me that question,
Yep.
um, it's kind of like what I'm about to show you might be one way of doing it. Go and watch a tutorial, right? But
Yes.
they're a
Yep.
dime a dozen. And the reality is, I can show you how to get ChatGPT to teach you. So,
Yep.
which is probably a smarter technique. But let's just start here. So, I did this this is part of a bigger talk I do on the prompt education tutorial space anyway. But this was done at your Digital Stage Summit
Uh-huh.
recently. So, it's relevant. And it's understanding that when you want to create something, what is this? Create a day in the life story about a woman in her 30s in New York. She's got a cat. We want to have a story. We want it to go for about 5 scenes and we want some drama. We want something like that. And so whenever and this would be in the patterns that I was talking about, a creational prompt. You're creating something, but it has structure. Well, there's the structure, it's a sequence of events. We've got a protagonist, we've got the hero's journey in this case. It's a woman, we've got some other characters involved, we've got a cat, and we've also got a setting. And so, one of the things to understand with prompt engineering is that the way you think about the structure of a prompt influences hugely what you get out the other side. So if you can't structure a prompt effectively, you'll never really get what you want. I think another thing when we look at this prompt is that it's not big. People generally do big prompts, and when I show you, I guess, a live demonstration, I'll talk about where a big prompt is useful, but it's not here. So we get some information. It comes out the other end. It's a day in the life story, and geez, it looks like I showed the wrong one, but this will do. This will do. The main thing I guess I want to point out is that prompts can be broken down, and at the end of the day, you can run them through another prompt chain to generate the visuals or the audios, transcripts, whatever, and you can get some outputs, run them through different graphics generation tools. The tool of choice at the moment, except for the performance of it, would be ChatGPT itself. But I think let's just answer your specific question by just going over to ChatGPT. Is my screen coming through okay?
Yeah, it's coming through
Yeah,
fine. Yep.
excellent. Okay, so um, I'll demonstrate a couple of concepts by doing this, and I'll go into voice mode. What can you tell me about prompt engineering? I think the things that I'm interested in is that I want to be good at prompt engineering, and I've heard that there are different types of prompts out there, like prompts that allow me to create articles, prompts that allow me to transform, say, a list of items into a more complex data structure. I've also heard that there's these concepts like the structure of a prompt. What are these patterns or frameworks for structuring a prompt, and what would be a great example? So if you've watched a couple of videos, and I suggest that you only watch 1 or 2 videos just to get an idea of what to do, and then stop learning, start acting, right?
Hmm.
And this is it. I've just taken some ideas that I might have heard in a video. I've jumped over to ChatGPT, and I'm going to get this long diatribe, but it's going to be quite focused on what I said there. So now I've got these types of prompts. We've got creative generation prompts.
Just before
Does
you
everyone?
just before you
Yeah.
carry on with that, just to just point out that thing that you did there, the advanced voice mode. I think that a lot of people don't even realize you can do that. I mean, that's kind of like the primary way that I interact with ChatGPT all the time. I'm rarely actually typing anything these days. I'm having these conversations with it, and that ability to rather than having to think like, oh, okay, let me craft something like perfect. That ability to just hit the voice button and just have a conversation and say, hey, this is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to, that is actually the new superpower, I think, of ChatGPT, to be able to converse with it and talk directly about like articulating what it is you're trying to do, and let it then help structure the thing based on everything you've said. And I speak for a lot longer than I would if I was trying to just create the perfect precise prompt, just by articulating, well, this is what I'm trying to do. It's just then becomes a conversation. So I thought it was just worth highlighting what you just done there, just speaking, and it's
Yeah.
capturing it all.
Yeah. In fact, before I came on and I was having my coffee this morning, I was just sitting on my phone because I just got told about it. I thought, oh, what am I going to talk about?
Yes,
Because
yeah.
I said to you last night, I said, oh, if I talk about this, it'll take 10 minutes. And now I've
Yeah.
realized
Yeah.
it's going to take 10
We
hours.
could we
So,
might have a 24-hour live stream on our hands.
but I think what's interesting about the way I'm showing it to you, that don't go off and learn, get ChatGPT
Hmm.
to do it for you, is really exemplified in my older channel.
Hmm.
Because like I said, I monetized from nothing in um 9 days on this video.
Hmm.
And people might be going, oh wow, you hit a trend, auto GPT. I certainly did hit a trend. What was unique about this video to any other video that was talking about auto GPT at the time, because this was early in the chat GPT process, is that I didn't go and learn how to use auto GPT. I demonstrated how to use Auto GPT by using Chat GPT to read the documentation and tell me what to do.
Hmm.
And people hadn't cottoned on to the idea that Chat GPT could be your tutor.
Right.
And that was what a lot of the comments were about. It wasn't that Auto GPT was cool. So some of them liked that, but it was the fact that I showed a new way,
Hmm.
because like I said, this was in the early days of prompt engineering for a lot of people.
Back in the
But
day, 2 years ago.
the day,
Yeah.
yeah. But anyway, so the reason I'm showing this is that now we've got a types of prompts that can do extraction. It's all put in there for you. We've got a few shot prompts. So now you've got this ability from these concepts that you
Hmm.
hear all the time in videos to go deeper. You can say, oh, tell me what the heck is a chain of thought prompt, and it will tell you. Then
Hmm.
we got frameworks. So one of the most common ones is the clear framework. It's context, logic, explicitness, ask, refinement,
Hmm.
and it gives you examples. So my I think because of the way I've configured my GPT, this is more technical than most people would want to see, but this is how I would be using it
Hmm.
and getting data structures out of it. But I think the main thing to do is start from this, and now you've got a list of information.
Hmm.
Now, I will only do one other part of this because I think it's important. A lot of people have trouble getting started. Like they don't know what to put here.
Hmm.
Okay. Now, if I wanted to do an article or a course on what is prompt engineering, types of prompts, um, prompt frameworks and structures, great prompt example, most people would go off and do their research and formulate a Google document or whatever that looks like this.
Mm-hmm.
And my point of view is, no, don't do that. Just ask a simple question. Ask a simple question. It will tell you a bunch of stuff. You look at whatever it says there, and let's just pick something out of it. For instance, okay, let's say, can you clarify this and just simplify it actually? All I'm interested in is the clear framework. Can you just put it into a document for me? And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to jump into canvas mode because it'll just make it easier to visualize. So now we've got a bunch of information that came from that original question. So we've narrowed down. So if you were writing an article, I think is a good example. You'll get 20 ideas, but you want to narrow down. So we've narrowed down. So we go, okay, great. So from this point, we say, from now on, this is the basis of the rest of the conversation. We are only going to be talking about this clear framework prompting. So in two or three statements, I've built my context.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than spending half an hour researching my context, I've built it. So in this framework here, clear is context, which is the most important thing to get right. I did it just with a couple of questions.
Yep.
From here, we can do whatever we want. In fact, let's just demonstrate another prompt engineering, like a feature within ChatGPT, and say, can you give me 2 prompts for generating an image of this framework? Can one of them be done as flowchart? Can one of them be done as a Hollywood blockbuster poster? So this is one of the types of prompts, right? A meta prompt. A meta prompt is a prompt that creates prompts.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I made a bit of a mistake by not exiting out of the document when I did it, but here we've got them. And I'll just, while we're talking, what do I want? App.Leonardo. I'll bring up Leonardo AI in a window as well. Let's just get into image creation. And so we can test things here. I'll just generate, and I'll click on that one, and I'll just generate. And the one that I think is it's this one. I'm going to do it here as well. So let's just drop out of here and paste it in, click on create image, get going. Now this will take forever. That's one of the other issues.
It's a bit slowly, isn't it, this one?
Yeah, it's very laggy. But here we've got them. We've got our ideas, logic, context. Here's a flowchart. So this would be good in our presentation, maybe. It's not, the text isn't so good, which is why I've done it in the other one, because it'll do better text. But these are really good proof of concept ideas that you can come up with. But if we want to talk about prompt engineering in a Hollywood blockbuster, this is what it could look like. Master the framework to rule your prompts. Like, I mean, it's ridiculous.
It is, yeah.
And this, yeah, and all of this is understanding the types of prompts. I did a type of prompt called the meta prompt, which is converting information into a prompt. In this case, it's an image prompt.
Right.
And then I just went and executed it in whatever tool of choice I want to.
Yeah, the new image generation in ChatGPT is great. I mean, I've sort of not been using image generation, other AI tools in general, but now that the ones built in ChatGPT, I have found I've been using it more just because it's kind of like part of my workflow then, rather than sort of hopping in and out of it. But yeah, it's kind of painfully slow. it's like
it's painfully slow.
It's like the old dial-up internet days where you'd load a web page and you'd see it almost like line by line be loading up.
Yeah, and I think if you remember those days, sometimes it just stops and you don't know it stopped. So I hope it's actually GPT
doing something in the background. Yeah. Cool. Well. So while that's loading up, we're waiting to see what comes out. Oh, I can see it building out from the top line by line.
I'll come back to that one.
So what we've looked at there, I mean, I'm still considering that as basic prompt engineering. It's still a lot more than still a lot of people are doing because of the little tricks that you gave there. Like there's one of those that should definitely be like highlighted is that one that you said like from now on this is the basis of this entire chat. Especially if you've got like a long chat going on, then sometimes it's easy for it to get sort of confused by stuff that's gone before, and so that thing of just like drawing a line and saying right, okay, this is what we're talking about now, and making sure that that's explicitly the context that that's a really good little tip just for general prompting. But
Mm.
how like taking it like on a further level, because the reason why we ended up today doing this, it came out of our conversation yesterday where we were talking about like building out workflows. So how maybe start by giving an introduction to that and how you can build like little workflows of multiple step prompts, but that are not just sort of typing them in one after another.
Yeah, sure. So what we'll do is we'll start off with our Hollywood blockbuster from ChatGPT of the clear framework that we've that finally
Oh,
it,
it's come through.
it's
Oh, cool, cool. Yeah, oh,
created.
isn't the
So
text that's the thing that's kind of blown me away with ChatGPT's images is like finally the text is fixed. It used to be that the
yeah,
text was always like, oh, it just let it down. That's to be honest with you, that's why I haven't used the image generations one tool so much, because the text is always the thing that seems to let it down. Whereas they seem to have nailed it somehow in ChatGPT now.
yeah. So I think ask me this question at the end because it'll make more sense at the end. But
Hmm.
how could we have automated that in real time as we're talking would
Right.
be an interesting question. But
Yep.
it won't make sense until I talk about other
Cool.
topics, I guess. So uh, so I do prompt. So the answer to making things easier than doing conversational prompting. We're doing conversational prompting right here. And where even if I've now told you a simple technique to become good at prompt engineering, you're still going to not really get it unless you go and practice hard. And this is the reality for a lot of people. They go, I don't know what to do. Can't you simplify it? And
Hmm.
you go, yes, you can. You go and you create a prompt chain. So I was talking to a lady recently, and I'm going to show you her prompt chain. So she gave it to me in Canva. She runs an SEO and branding company, and she gives out prompt packs to her audience. And so we've got one here, generate a monthly content calendar, and there's a couple of other bits of information going on here. And then we got one called generate ins- ins- inspiration and SEO rich blog posts. So she creates these little PDF documents and she sends them out to her clients. And rather than having them needing to know how to do the prompt engineering, they go and copy and paste them. So this is what it looks like. She has a little video before it. It has some, this is what you need to do. Uh, put this information in. It's got this other section right here that says start a new chat, complete the bot primer. So that's a separate workflow that she's told them to go and do, and then paste this in, press enter, and then check in, wait for the to respond, check what's going on. And it's just a chain. Do that, do that, do that. And the reason she talked to me about this is that this is my bread and butter. This is where I love to live, because this is how I've been automating multiple YouTube channels, is by working in this. She said, this is what I do. I want to learn prompt engineering. I want to learn more effective ways of doing prompt chains. I want to automate this. I don't want people to actually have to copy and paste this into ChatGPT. And then I want to make it a simple user interface so that they don't have to know nothing. They don't even need to know how to copy and paste. They can just work it into a little micro application, is what I'd call it. I said, sure. So I ended up doing a live stream. Have I got that here? Because this is what the old channel that had all that success, but then I abandoned. That's what it is now. It's just for live streams. And one of these live streams in here was oh yeah, it's the last one. Yeah, quick requirements planning. What I did was I reverse engineered everything she did. So I went into ChatGPT. I took all of these images, 1, 2, and 3. I pasted each of them into ChatGPT and I just asked it to describe what it sees. all I was really trying to do was extract all the data. Once I had extracted all the data, and you can go watch the live stream to see. I'm just going to share what happened. In fact, let's just jump back. So otherwise we'll get a little bit technical. I extracted the information in the images because I wanted the raw text. When I was looking at her prompts, I thought, this could be greatly improved. There were issues in the prompts themselves,
Hmm.
but there was more importantly issues in how she was asking her clients to supply data.
Hmm.
So I did a little conversation once I'd captured all her original data, and I said, can you extract all the prompts for me? And can you tell me what sort of a workflow you're seeing in front of me? I'll give you a hint. It's a prompt chain. So that's context, by the way. That's giving extra instruction. The actual document is context. And then I said, can you isolate the variables and give them some appropriate names? Because mostly she just had dot, dot, dot in the screenshot. And I thought, how are people to know what's going on?
Right.
And then I like some of them have names. And then I said, just relay it out. So it wrote me a document which I could have given back to her alone as a PDF and say, at least update it with these variable names. We got the structure. And I also wanted it to understand when it thought things should be automated by the bots, when a human in the loop is really needed, like what step is human in the loop really needed, and where is there a fork in the road? So forks in the road happen if you said, oh, give me 5 topics about ABC.
Hmm.
You got 5 topics, and you might say, now that I've got a list of topics, I just want to do an article on them. That's not a fork in the road. That's just using them as context. But a fork in the road is when I want to do 2 articles and you want to pick which topic. You've said, I love the 5 topics, but I only want to work on that one. I want to work on that one. So now we go into new prompt chains, which is writing the article, but we've started them both slightly different.
Hmm.
We might have the original context, but we've got topic 1, topic 2. So this was the sort of information I was personally trying to extract from the document she gave me. It gave it to me. So then the next step goes, I know that she wants to automate this. Me giving her the document would have just been giving her a better version of what she had.
Hmm.
But she says she wants to automate it. So I said, okay, can we convert this into, there are tools, there are workflow engines. This is how you totally automate AI. And they're things like NA to N, Make, Zapier. People have heard of these tools, Zapier and Make, and
Hmm.
NA to N is a low code, no code platform. And then you can get down to the coding level. OpenAI just released an software development kit, an SDK for their agents, and we got Crew AI. I'll steer clear of the technical. So I said, now that we've got the document, we understand the prompts, we understand where the human in the loop is, and we understand the inputs and the outputs. Or how do we transform it into something else, such as directly into an automation tool, which would be great, except that if you put it directly into an automation tool, it doesn't have human in the loop. So if it makes a mistake early, the mistake at the end is big.
Hmm.
So you go, sorry, I know I keep looking down here because that's where you are. I should be here. um, but the uh, I thought maybe what we could do from her prompt chain is create a little visual user interface. Can we make a web page for it? And so what I ended up doing was just asking those questions of ChatGPT, and it started building it. So here it was. This is like where her story starts. Here's where her audience is. Start with these, and this was really AI seeing the context of what I wanted. It was multiple contexts by now. It was the original prompt pat. It was me turning the original prompt pack into a more logical data shape. And then it was me giving one last context, which is how does a developer think? So I'm an architect, which means I know how to write requirements documents. I said, do a requirements document for an application. And then I asked it, write the code and show it to me. And it did. And here it is. Here's where the fork in the road can happen. You've got 2 points. Which one do you want to go? That one? Or do you want to go that one? Use this topic. Then we've got, here's a list of items that we might want in our document. And then it would go, do you want to add to it? Blah, blah, blah. So I'd been able to visualize all this in a web form. So I knew from her point of view, this was a next, at least one level up from where she was at. But then I thought, okay, look, let's now totally automate this, because most people still don't want to. Well, firstly, this is great, but this is an MVP. It's a fake. So I'd hopped over to this product. Just bring it up. AI Gentive. So it's one of those workflow engines. It's a little bit more niche. I know the guys that do this one, whereas which is why I work with them. And I said to them, okay, here's my workflow. I gave them the original documents from her. I gave them my improved documents, and I gave them the requirements spec and all these screenshots that I'd done. And I'd done it for two. That was the first workflow. The second workflow is here as well, which is based on her second problem, generate a monthly content report. And they came back to me with something. I wonder where we put it. This will do. This is it. So they've just created a workflow in the back end, and then they've put a visual front end over the top of it. So I don't know. Let's do a prompt on something. Can you give me a story about a woman and her cat? She lives in New York. She's 30 years of age. It's a 5-step story, and there's a little bit of drama in the third story. That should say slide. Go students. And now the prompts that we've been developing, both in the prompt pack or the prompts that you've been seeing over on ChatGPT, are now isolated. They're hidden away from you. Now you can do view context and see stuff, but that's what's going on. So now we have these stories, and if we put some check boxes on them, these could be forks in the road. We could do a story on that one. We could do a story on that one. So let's do a story on that one. We can regenerate our ideas if we want. And we get moving. We're getting a bunch of highlights. And the key research points to include in your blog posts. So this again is a nice one to notice. When you've got lists, are they to be included going forward, or are they forks in the road? It's just different ways you can think about how flows happen. If you've ever used ChatGPT and gone back and edited a prompt, that's a fork in the road. It goes in a new direction. So we say, okay, we've got this information, and I wanna play around with it. There's a course got planned for around June on this story called Emotional Support Spiders. Can you create or reframe this story in the multi-universe where there's 2 sentient races? One is human, one is spiders. And the name of this universe is called Emotional Support Spiders. And behind it all is a buddy story. And from our original story of The Woman and the Cat, we have a 12-year-old girl who's fearful of the world, and the cat is replaced by a spider who is cute and strong and acts as her protective guardian in some sort of buddy story. Now, when you're using tools like this, one thing to note too is that you can bring other tools into the mix that just wouldn't be there if you're in a chat window. So we could go over to this unexpected twist when drama arrives. But instead, we'll just keep moving on with our story generation workflow. Now, I think another thing to be aware of is that coming up with a workflow is pretty easy. It's what I would call in regular business a standard operating procedure. What's not so easy for a lot of people is to go, let's automate it. But if you could automate it, what it means is that you don't have to go and buy all these online SaaS or AI applications. You can roll your own. That's what I love about this process. If I want something all the time, let's say I'm doing stories on emotional support spiders, I shouldn't need to make that statement. It should be built into the context of the application. So I'm not sure whether that kicked in. I think it might have missed it. I'm not sure. I think there's a bug here, but we'll see. It might
Just to
work.
just to
And then we might say, let's,
just to say something about
yeah.
that, but the point that you just made there, about the, these different SaaS products that you can get. The reason why I've almost exclusively used ChatGPT just in its relatively basic form and conversation on things like that, is because there are all these different tools out there, and certainly lots of software providers have been trying to basically, I will say, shoehorn AI into their product. Like I use Kajabi for my courses, for example, and they a couple of years ago, or when AI just sort of exploded, they were like, right, well, let's put AI into every aspect of the interface. So in the course builder, you can type in a prompt and then it will give you like a course outline. The problem that all of those things have for me, and the reason why I always say it's like you're just on rails and you're kind of stuck with what you get, is there's no way to adapt it just specifically to your need, and there's no way to sort of have a conversation with it. So like in Kajabi, for example, there's a thing where you type in the title of your course and then it says, would you like me to generate a course outline? And the options you've got are yes or no. And if you say yes and it does it, it says, do you like this? Yes or no. And then it will just do another one. There's no conversation back or and forth. And I find that that's the case with so many of these different things that are like, oh yeah, drop in your, upload your video. We'll create the transcript and then we'll create a series of blog posts or LinkedIn posts or short form content. The problem that I have with all of those is, or the ones that I've tried at least, is that lack of interaction. The way that the human in the loop is kind of limited. What I love about this is what you're talking about here is creating something that is really really specific to your needs, but then does allow you to basically, you're building your own rails effectively. So it is a thing on rails, but it's within like your parameters, your needs, and so that's why I love this. It's kind of simplification, but bespoke for your exact
Yeah.
requirements.
Yeah, it's bespoke simplification because
Hmm.
no one's ever been able to crack this problem. But, like, how many, as a software developer, how many companies do you go into that say, "Oh, we need this workflow
Hmm.
automated," and like in the day, you quote, I don't know, 10 grand, 20 grand, 100 grand, $1
Hmm.
million. They go, "Why? Why?" Because it's so hard.
Hmm.
It's so hard to write software, and generally the only software we ever see out there is generalist software,
Hmm.
and generalist software doesn't do what I want in my work, in my
Yes,
business.
exactly. Yeah, yeah.
But agents are such a simple concept. I might show some behind the scenes of this as well,
Hmm.
so you can see why it's so simple. But in this particular case, we've got our emotional support spider. It's obviously New York because that looks like Peter Parker to me. It hasn't picked up the information of our girl and our world, so that would be a bug in the prompt chain. But it's gone back more to our original 30-year-old woman. And at this point, another tool might be published to WordPress. I don't know, something like that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's this idea of just being able to create things custom for your needs is it is really the game changer. I think that you can just relatively, I won't say I suppose it is relatively easily. Well, certainly compared to some of those methods that you were talking about before. Getting things custom built for your your business. So
Mm.
the tool that you talked about there, AI Gentive, how what's the sort of process with that? How easy is it to sort of, because we've shown like obviously the sort of prompt engineering sequence, and then we've seen the output. the part in the middle, obviously that's your expertise as well. That's what you can, if people want a shortcut to it, they can obviously reach out to you directly to help with these kind of things. But what's the process of putting that together look like?
Yeah, so it can be a tad technical.
Hmm.
It's so when you think, if you go to the very easiest of tools, you got Zapier or you
Hmm.
got Make. They're designed for anyone to use. Some people still get confused by them, which is fine. That's, you got to be able to think a certain way, but
Yes. Yep.
they're easy. Then you move on to tools like N8N, and once you get into N8N, again, they're a little harder, but they have this capability of breaking out into coding. And if
Hmm.
you've got the ability to do coding, and just so you know, those little forms that I showed over here, right? There's they I didn't write them.
Hmm.
I just had a conversation with ChatGPT and it built them for me.
Hmm.
Um, and they did exactly what I wanted,
Hmm.
and they were a good way to communicate to developers.
Yep.
But
Uh,
I've been,
just to that
yeah,
point, though, this is one of these things where, oh yeah, AI can write code for you and that, but I would say that you still need your coding experience to to know how to implement it, and also to pick up the little faults and the bugs with it and things like that.
you,
So, yeah.
you do, yeah. So I've been, so AI Generative is the tool I was talking about. This
Hmm.
has got similarities to N8N. It's not as big, but the thing is, I know the guys, so the ability to get things done
Hmm.
quicker. So you've got a little user interface where you can configure these bots. It works the same way. It's drag and drop, but you've also got a software development kit and SDK
Hmm.
where you can just programmatically create your chains in the
Hmm.
background, put your prompts in, stuff like that. And I'm in the middle of writing what's called a domain specific language, which I use in other areas. Again, that's a bit technical, I guess, but it's a language designed to create agents so that you can type this little document, this structure, and the agents get created.
Hmm.
And we're having these conversations about, let's not just do the workflow in the back end, which is what the SDK does,
Hmm.
but let's also do the front end, right?
Hmm.
So these front ends are really simple. And so at the moment, it's still, I would call it alpha, beta. The actual application you can go and sign up and use, but it doesn't do the stuff that we're talking about here yet. Losing context, but this is what I'm working with the guys at the moment
Hmm.
around how can we make this a lot easier to do, because people don't want the workflows, they want this,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
right? They want to be able to give it to their clients and say, just type in your form. Like, imagine um, a doctor that has a basic profiling assessment going on, an intake form, but the intake form can actually probe
Hmm.
the client on certain things to highlight or go into, um, and they want it bespoke to their medical practice because they might be a certain sort of doctor. So you're not going to just get off the shelf software for this. You just want to be able to build the workflow, and then you might want another workflow. It might be a good time to go just look at workflows in general, I
Hmm.
think,
Yeah. Sure.
and then I can talk about that. Should we move into workflows in general, or you
Yeah,
want to talk
sure,
about
sure.
something?
Yeah, yeah. I just to find on this particular point here. So at the moment, would this be that thing that you just showed there? Is that running in a browser? And perhaps you can talk about like how you could just make that accessible for if you've created something like that little tool that you just showed, like how that could be
Sorry,
made available to folks.
Yeah, I'll get you to repeat that question because I was looking at a message here.
Okay, sure.
Sorry.
Yeah, so the demonstration of that, the web form and so on, it was just running like as in a web page effectively. So am I right there? And that could be
Oh
made.
yeah, yeah,
So just being able to create something like that in the case of well, the client that you were working with to create that structure, that would be something that, for example, she could give access to, let's say, members of a group or something like that, or they could just get it on a website. It's something that could be shared like that and accessed from
definitely.
mobile. And
I was about to actually paste the link into the chat window, but then I realized it is costing money behind the scenes because there's actual chat
sure,
GPT
yeah.
going on. So I won't paste. I won't paste the link. But yeah, this is just a public facing
Hmm.
URL.
Yep, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's chat a little bit more about the workflow chains then.
How long do you want this to go on for? But
You you
like,
you keep you keep chatting. You keep chatting.
I guess even before I move on, is there anyone? Does anyone have a question? Was there anything in particular
Yeah,
people
drop
were
any
interested in?
questions in the chat if you've got any.
What I'll do is I'll move on anyway. But so I said I had multiple YouTube channels,
Hmm.
right? So for me, again, early in the ChatGPT phase, I was working on winning prompts at the moment, and then I was about to do Appy Dave Original, the first one,
Hmm.
and I was like, I was talking through this idea of having. I came up with the 555 manifesto, 555 videos in 55 weeks across 5 channels, and I was talking about it in certain groups, and I was uh, getting told off about it because that's not the way to do YouTube.
Hmm.
YouTube is about pick a niche or an audience. I learnt later it was an audience, but pick a niche and go in deep. You'll do well if that's all you do.
Hmm.
And and someone told me off. It affected me. I thought, oh, am I doing this YouTube caper wrong? And um, and it took me a little while to cotton on to get away from that person's attack and come back to my values
Hmm.
and go, hang on, the whole reason I'm doing this is to learn how to be a YouTuber. The whole reason I'm doing this is to learn how to automate YouTube. But this is all about YouTube automation. That
Hmm.
original Fly video channel was
Yep.
meant to be make your videos fly. It was YouTube automation. So I thought, no, they don't get it.
Hmm.
And I don't need to spruik it anymore. I don't need to tell people about it. I just go in the back end and I'll start automating my systems. And so the for any of the YouTubers in the room, you know how hard this game is, depending on the techniques you do it. I know you've picked the one take sort of video system, which I know is easy. It's one of the reasons I do live streams, they're
Hmm.
easy to do. But if you want to do explainer videos, which I do on the AI TLDR, or if you want to do live streams and you'll need some sort of planning phase before you do it, or maybe you had one today. If you want to do a talking head how-to video, there's a lot of work involved. So what's the work? You got to plan, you got to research, you got to script, you got to record, you got to edit, you got to B-roll it, audio it, blah blah
Hmm.
blah blah. And all of this takes a fair amount of time. And then you think, great, I'm done. No, you're not even close to done at this point. Like you've recorded a video. Now you've got to add a title to it, well, in fact, I'll just show you a screen because this was one of my first workflows. Yes. So we'll just jump in over here. You got to launch the thing, the YouTube launch formula or workflow. What do you got to do from that? Well, when I'm working through a video that I've done all those things, I've planned it, I've scripted it, researched it.
Can I
You were
just
going to
pause?
say
Can
something?
I just pause? Stop you 1 second, by the way, because just so that people are clear what you're looking at, this is like an app that you've created, having kind of written your own custom language in the background that's doing all of
Yeah.
these calls to to ChatGPT. So when people, I often mention you in conversation and say David's on another level. This is what I'm talking about. This is not what most people
Right.
are going to do. But obviously, you're talking through the process. But this application in itself that you've been building is just like mind blowing, honestly. But anyway,
Yeah.
continue with the process.
Thanks. Yeah, but like it has massive limitations because I've never had the time to work on it. This application is over a year old and it runs a lot of my workflows. But this is why I reached out to the guys from AI
Mhm,
Generative because the I'm a solo creator. I'm a solopreneur. So I do have uh, two people that are helping me on one on the other channels, but generally I do everything myself, and I've been holding down a job. So the whole idea of working on this has not been top of mind.
mhm,
It only happened because I needed to solve my content creation workflows. And so when I have done my video, I go into a preparation phase where I fill in a bunch of fields and I work through getting my summaries, the abridgment. I separate out the intro and the outro. And it's just some prompts and some information. And behind the scenes, if I just go A, and I'll go B, whatever's going on here, the interpolated prompt has those values in there. There's
mhm.
your AAA, and the other one's in there somewhere, I guess. Maybe
Th-
not.
This is coming back to that
But
whole like coding thing where you've got little, strings that can be
yeah,
incorporated
yeah.
later. Mhm,
So sorry, the reason they didn't merge in is that that's actually what we're producing. We're producing an intro and an outro. So if I get a
mhm,
30-minute video, I just want to separate the intro and the outro. The reason that's important to me, and this is very bespoke, this wouldn't make sense to another content creator, or they might understand why they'd want to separate the intro. But I move into phase, the B-roll suggestion, where I generate all my B-roll using Leonardo AI
mhm,
using that intro. So whatever's in the intro, I want images that match it in a style, a design style,
mhm,
automatically created. So essentially this workflow that was my first one. It's 34 steps. It's whatever it is, 8 different sessions. I prepare my video, I build my YouTube chapters, I get my B-roll suggestions and prompts for the intro and the outro. I analyze my content. This is where I talk about different prompt types. You got diagnostics, analysis, and predicate types of prompts. There are 3 different types, but in this case, if I want to analyze my transcript, to identify what the main theme is, to extract some keywords, to get some important statistics, I run it through this prompt. If I want to figure out audience engagement, like, I don't know, emotional triggers, tone and style, I get it from here. So essentially, this was one of my first workflows, and it's the one I use the most, and it saves me a fair amount of time. Um, yeah, I don't know that I need to, like I've got others, the YouTube video planner, and in talking with the guys from AI Generative, we're looking at how do we take this to the next level so it becomes really bespoke, really automated.
yep,
And a lot of that is thinking through as developers, we're thinking through what does a control on the screen really look like? Because these are not right. These are the sorts of controls that you're typing in here that you would see in a regular web application.
mhm.
This is not how conversational
Right.
control should work. The ability to select professionals or select marketers, well, actually, they changed it overnight. That's cool. Can be changed. It's like marketers of sunglasses. Because I told them this is not the right sort of control the way
Mhm.
it was. It was just a drop down list. Now it's a drop down list that acts as a suggestion, which you can override,
Right.
which is more what you need in conversational applications
Yes. Yep.
than you do in regular applications.
Mhm.
So yeah, I could go deeper into this. I could even show one, but I think maybe that's probably a clear view of. those sorts of things.
Yeah, cool. You mentioned something there, which I just want to come back to about the this advice that somebody gave about the multiple channels, and I think that what that stems from is sometimes you get people who think, I'm going to start a travel channel, and I'm also going to start a woodworking channel, and I'm also going to start one on branding and marketing or something like that, and where they've got three things that are really kind of like different, and they're maybe all like side projects, and then they don't have the time
Yeah.
to devote to them. But it did, obviously shows a bit of a lack of going deeper to understand what the thing is, because although you've got, multiple channels, and I've dropped them in the chat and they're down in the description as well. They're all like completely integrated. Really, you've got the AI TLDR, which is kind of like a fully automated almost channel in terms of I know there's still the human in the loop kind of thing, but that's kind of like a test bed. Then you've got the the Appy Dave, which is more the tutorial style things, and the Appy Dave research, which is like a different thing as well. But it's all the same thing. It's all the same underlying value, the same direction that you're going in. They're just kind of like different aspects of it. So that's the multiple channels makes absolute total sense, and it's entirely right and natural that they are separate as well, and not just just why not do it all on one channel. I mean, for the example, the AI TLDR channel that you've got, looking at the growth of that one that you've had, where how long has this one been going now? And you're up to 710 subscribers. I know you just hit a views milestone, but it's all
I think it's about 8 or 9 months. It's starting to bring in affiliate commission. It's not big enough to monetize on YouTube, but it's bringing in some affiliate commission. And I think, yeah, coming back to why do I have multiple channels, right? So I have it for two reasons, maybe three reasons if we were to talk about passion. I'm
mhm,
passionate about a bunch of things, and I want to talk about them. But I learnt that there's one. I think the guy from Creator Booth says a lot of people treat YouTube channels like the Australian platypus. It's this animal that has a duck bill, it swims, it's a mammal. It doesn't know what it is. Right? And I loved that analogy when I first heard it. I'd said that, and that'd been part of the problem with Appy Dave. But I don't tell people this much, but behind everything is this brand Dave. What is brand Dave? And brand Dave is both a Venn diagram with three channels,
mhm,
with some outlying channels for specific reasons.
mhm,
So I did winning prompts, AITLDR, Appy Dave, and Appy Dave research because they looked at different areas. They looked at what does a faceless YouTube
mhm,
automation channel look like? What should prompt engineering look like? That channel's in limbo at the moment. I've got Appy Dave. How do I talk about what has now become my scale framework, which is structured prompts, creating workflows, automating agents, a layered communication to different services, and followed by exponential usage through the simplification process that I've been showing.
mhm,
That this is what Appy Dave is about, but they all fit together. And they often I'll talk to Mary, who runs the AI TLDR, and I say, Mary, we're doing emotional support spiders, or we did this for the 555 manifesto and the Mountain of Mastery. I said, I'm going to create a bunch of prompts and images in Leonardo for this Mountain of Mastery metaphor or story. I need you to animate it. Let's get into design, DZINE. There's that's such a great product for doing the animation of these things, and we use and so she'll be off paving the way, and she's doing videos over on the AI TLDR channel, and that's a research assistant for me. So yes, there's this Venn diagram of how things fit together, but then there's this outlying thing where I go, when I think of AI automated videos like InVideo or Pictory or Notebook LM or whatever, I think people don't use them right. They don't use them effectively because they go, oh, let's create a script, let's create a video, bam,
Hmm.
done. We can get all these videos out. And sometimes I do that, but mostly what I do when I'm producing information for the internet is I'm coming from the point of view of value. Well, how do I educate? How do I educate? So
Hmm.
if I'm going to run something through an automation flow like I just described, and I don't generally, except for Notebook LM, um, I spend a heck of a lot of time in the pre phase of getting the data right, like
Hmm.
the fact checking. We run these all through workflows anyway. We get our workflows, we've got our QA bots that are saying, okay, is this actually factually correct? And then we'll run it through a script generator. But then I need to be able to test this out in the real world as well and be careful not to muddy the Appy Dave channel. So this is why I went back to my old Appy Dave channel. I renamed it to Appy Dave Research and I started doing live streams
Hmm.
because the live streams allowed me the ability to go and do content in real time, like 1 hour. You know how quick it is to do a live stream. It's so much easier.
Yep.
Um, not really be too concerned about where it's going, the views or anything like that. Just get the information out of my head into the screen
Hmm.
via learning at the same time. So I'll
Yep.
learn. And you go, okay, that's cool. That's done. Now now I want to make it available as education to people. And sometimes when you do a live stream, it's not that informative, right? You wander. And so we started creating workflows around converting it to podcasts because a podcast is this conversational storytelling, like you and I are having right now, though
Hmm.
I'm off talking too much. I can hear it in my
Not at
hear
all.
it as
Not
we
at all.
go.
Not at all. That's what we're here for.
But in a podcast, you get this backwards and forwards flow.
Hmm.
And so long as I've got all my planning, which means I've got my fact sheet and then I've delivered it into my live stream, all that information is available.
Hmm.
And then we can do a certain prompt to say, I want it to be a podcast, but I want you to focus on this area. This is important. And it goes and does it. So you'll start seeing uh one of the channels had the original this channel actually Appy Dave used to be called Appy Cast because it was meant to be about these quick podcast sort of concepts. But now you're going to start seeing a playlist on my channel, which is specifically Appy Casts. And what they are is AI generated podcasts based off Appy Dave research. So anything that I'm learning myself can be turned into a podcast and come out the Appy Dave channel as an Appy Cast. People know it's not an actual human one. It'll start with a little intro from me generally, but then, and we're still working on branding and stuff there. I wouldn't click on anything
Okay.
just yet.
For sure.
um, but that'll come out. And then the other one is that I'm doing storytelling in Thailand, right? So in Thailand, my girlfriend has a cafe. It's called Cozy Cafe, KOZI KAFE, and to help promote that physical business, like it's a um, yeah, it's a physical business. You go, how do you promote it? Well, storytelling is a great way of doing it. And when you're living in a place like Chiang Mai, which is where I live part of the year, um, there's these amazing stories. Like people know that you can go to Thailand and get a great massage. What they don't know is that you can go to a place specifically for women who are coming out of prison and they're trying to learn a skill. And there's an actual place where they learn the skill of both working in a cafe. So there's a cafe there, and there's a massage center next door where they learn the skills of massage. And again, with massage, there's another place in Chiang Mai which only has blind people. So people that have lost their sight, they all work there. And so your average tourist would go, wow, that's an interesting story. Where is this?
Mhm.
And just the sorts of things that you get to experience which are not on the tourist radar normally, are stories. So I say that because I'm going, there's this interesting stuff. I'm not ever going to personally do a YouTube channel on this idea, but these experiences happen. How do you get that out of the experience and into content? So this is another area that we're looking at for the podcasting is like, how do you turn it into a podcast with the B-roll being actual
Yep.
visuals from the event. So that and then the 555 manifesto and the emotional support spiders, these are more storytelling narratives. They've got more of that Hollywood blockbuster sort of stuff. So we just experiment with different ways that you can get value and knowledge out of the creator's head and onto the screen.
Mm-hmm. The 555 thing, by the way, for anyone who's not in Thailand, the number five in Thai is ha, and so 555 is like ha ha ha. So it's kind of like used in place of LOL, like in text speak and things like that over here. So that's the
Yeah.
significance of it in that respect, where it came from.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. It's not a goal. Doing 555 videos in 55 weeks across 5 channels is not an actual goal. It was kind of designed as a goal for the solo creator. Can they do that? But it's a framework, and uh, it's a bit of a piss take by saying it's the laugh out loud
Yeah.
manifesto, as you said, a ha ha
Yeah.
ha ha manifesto. But I use it as a framework because I think it's quite achievable for the solo creator to create
Hmm.
555 videos in 55 weeks across 5 channels.
Hmm.
I haven't done it yet, but think it's achievable.
Hmm.
And it all actually stemmed from Mr. Beast. Okay, I saw one of his little skits where he was just someone had asked a question. Oh, I've done 10 videos, I've got no views. What's going on? And he said, don't talk to me until you've done 100 videos.
Hmm.
And every time you've done a video, you've improved something. If
Yeah.
you've done that, then you can come and talk to me about your problems.
Well,
And I just took that and multiplied it by 5 so I could tackle 5 different ways of doing videos.
So I got that exact same advice from Doc Rock, who was my coach before he realized he was my coach when I was just watching his videos, and he mentioned that, and that's why I did 100 videos in 100 days, like when I started on YouTube, and it came from that exact same advice. Don't be doing one or two and then trying to analyze what's going on when you've got 50 views. You've got to have
Yeah.
that thing, and so yeah, that came exactly. I heard that exact same thing from Doc, and that was my motivation. And it is really solid sound advice, because you only get to see that thing. As the longer it goes on, the more data obviously you've got to base these things on.
Mm,
Um,
mm.
so another sort of final thing then perhaps is people thinking about using AI in their business. I think that there's some people who think, oh yeah, I can clearly see how I've got a particular workflow and I need to automate it, or I could totally replicate this series of steps that I'm going through. But I think there is a whole bunch of people in various different industries where they may be just thinking, oh well, I couldn't possibly, I don't know where I'd use it in my business. Whereas I know that you believe, and I believe that that there's basically no business that you can't leverage AI to enhance your, enhance your success, scale your business. There was somebody as well, I forget who mentioned it just in one of our sessions, and I forget where they heard it as well. But it was a case of you're not going to be replaced by AI, or your business won't be replaced by AI, but it could very well be replaced by a business that's leveraging AI in their business. So it's this idea
Yeah.
that that's the thing. So think about like a few other ideas of businesses that may not necessarily you might not think that you could use it, but how you might use AI in those kind of businesses.
Yeah, sure. So I guess when I think of my scale framework for from prompt engineering to workflows to automation to simplification, I know that can be used in every business. I can't personally think of a business or a profession or a workflow, personal, business, or creative, that you can't use these ideas.
Hmm.
Um, the myself as a person that talks about this, I personally like to um, have my audience more around content creators,
Hmm.
because the problem I've been trying to solve have been my own problems,
Right.
and it's
Yeah.
content creation.
Hmm.
But the actual framework itself is for any business.
Hmm.
So I had I didn't know it. I found myself playing with these two cards in my hand while we were talking, because and I'll talk about this because I was at this BNI meeting a couple of days ago, Business Networking International. I don't know what it stands for. Anyway, there was like 30 or 40 businesses, small businesses, and we were all having this breakfast in the morning, and they were all doing a referral. They were doing a pitch, an elevator pitch. So this is what I do, and this is what I'm looking for. And it went around the room, and it was incredible. I loved watching it. There was lots of lawyers. I don't know why there was such an oversupply of lawyers there, but they were specific lawyers. So it was environmental lawyers, it was family lawyers, whatever. Then there was tradesmen, so there was plumbers, electricians, etc. And I got up and said, I'm an AI strategist. I help people automate their workflows. And all the people that I would have thought would be the ones that would want to do this, the lawyers, the real estate agents who have a lot of data, a lot of
Hmm.
information. They got client acquisition, they got data analysis, they got content creation. No one came up to me. The one person that came up to me was this lady from I Love Painting, and she's a interior house painter. So she does these paintings on the wall for people. And she came up to me and said, "Oh, David, I need to learn more about workflows and AI and all this sort of stuff." And I said to her, "Tell me a bit about your business." She tells me, and I said, "Do you personally think AI is going to replace your job?" And it's going to that statement that says that AI won't take your job. AI you will lose your job to the person using AI.
Hmm.
And but I asked her the first part of the question. I said, "Do you think AI could take your job?" And she goes, and she described it. She said, "No, not really." And I kind of agreed with her. I thought that's actually a difficult one for AI to replace until ro- robotics are cheap and plentiful.
Hmm.
Once that happens, it can be replaced. So I said to her, "Okay, that's fair enough. What have you thought about how you could use AI in this sort of profession?"
Hmm.
And she said, "Not really. I could do a little bit of email marketing and all that sort of stuff," which is the obvious. That's the obvious thing for this. And I said to her, "Okay, how about we look at this room we're in? We were in this beautiful pub. We're in the meeting room of this pub, and all throughout, all the different rooms of this pub had really good artworks, and not artworks. This was like more stylized paintings. So in this particular room, we had these like paper mache ladders up on the left. That was cool. And on the right, we had this silhouette of a man riding a bike. It was all black. It was repeated multiple times, and there were these black and white totems. And I said to her, imagine yourself doing your business and you came to this pub that we're in, and it looked like this wall. It's just a blank wall, and you got your client next to you, you got your Mac computer next to you, and you're having a conversation with them, and they say, "What I see over on this wall is this silhouette of a man riding a bike, and some totem poles, and that's what I want to do. Can you do that?" And she goes, "Yeah, probably could do that. Hang on, let's try that." And because of augmented reality glasses, which are now available linked into ChatGPT with cameras that can absorb information, screens on the inside that you can see what's going on, and the ability to take voice controls, she could have just looked at that wall and pressed a button and taken a photo of it. Now got the photo, and then headed over to a ChatGPT window that she could have seen in her glasses, and press another button to start recording and say to the client, "What do you actually want?" and press the button. And the client could say, well, I'm thinking that on this picture, there should be a black silhouette man riding a bike, and that there should be a couple of black totem poles. And she goes and press the button. It's the prompt's been captured, and then she can start recording again and say, "Can you come up with a prompt for me for an image that matches this description?" It does it. Can you now create that image for me? And it's all doing it within her
Hmm.
glasses, which is synced to her Mac. So whatever she's doing can be seen by the client on the Mac, but
Hmm.
she's doing it from her glasses. And and said, and now can you overlay it on top of this picture that we've already taken of the thing? And so the client could see in semi-real time what's what the painter
Yeah.
is doing through collaboration. And then the client could say, look, I don't, this is great. You've got this black silhouette of a man riding an old vintage bike. Can we repeat that all the way across? And every time we see the umbrella, can it just be bright red? I want a bright red, maybe red like my little microphone here. And you just make that statement, and it does it all in real time, and they can see it on the computer, and the client goes, "Yep, that's what I want. I'm happy to engage your services."
Yeah.
And that can all be done in a few minutes from concept to proof of concept, MVP, visually. And then the painters just go and paint it. So that's where I see this going.
Yeah, it's a great example because it is something that you would those kind of things where it's maybe somebody more creative with in real world situations, painting obviously actual physical paint on walls, but to be able to introduce it into something like that or any kind of like trade things as well where you're trying to problem solve on a site, for example. There's loads of ways that it can be integrated there. I mean, it really is just like people are still just not really fully getting like how they can leverage it. And it's funny you were mentioning about being at the BNI meeting and literally like there's one person that came up. I think that does just sort of show that like if folks that are watching this are also already using AI and leveraging it, we are like all almost at the cutting edge of it. You're on another level, David, but like the regular folks are still really, if you're using it at all, we're still on the cutting edge because the majority of people just aren't, and they're kind of almost they're going to get sort of blindsided, I think, by the people that are leveraging it. Like what a missed opportunity for the lawyers, the all those other people that could potentially be generating 10x their revenue or whatever by just automating workflows and things like that. It's a huge opportunity that I still think the majority of people are just not stepping up to. So even if you're using it in the simplest terms, you're still light years ahead of everyone else, I think.
Yeah, I think like Brian, who's in
Yeah,
this
Brian's
group,
great.
he
I've got
he
a
talks
Brian
about
folder
that.
in my browser, which is all the recommendations
Yeah,
from Brian.
because he's so on top of all of this, but he brings up this topic, and I think this is an interesting one, right? Because I don't think it matters whether you're a lawyer or a doctor or whatever you do.
Hmm.
Um, but he's talking about the high cost of the big law firms
Hmm.
when the the little one man show
Hmm.
can come in and say, I'm going to be a lawyer, and I'm going to offload all of those things that are done in the big law firm can be these little workflows with
Yep.
little visual interfaces that so there was there was a woman at the BNI. She was a lawyer, and she was micro apps and that. And I thought, imagine that you go and see a client one on one, and you hear their problem, you gauge what it is, and then you
Hmm.
just pop up the right micro app
Hmm.
and say, okay. And you don't even need to type into it. You could be having a
Yep.
voice conversation. You press the button and you start talking into that micro app, which is designed to go down a certain workflow.
Hmm.
And at the end of it, a little brief or an analysis of the client's problem is dealt with,
Hmm.
and the client goes, "This is incredible. I want to engage you. I'm not going to go to the
Yeah.
big respected law firm anymore because you're solving my problems for me. And that way we now get to specialize, but also pick the clients we want.
Hmm.
We, we get to shape the type of client we want because we've got all the tools at our
Yes.
disposal that we create, not that we go and spend a whole lot of money on big services that never quite do that bespoke thing anyway.
Hmm. Cool. I've got a feeling that if we kept talking, we could just keep talking for hours, and I don't want to keep you away
I
from
think
your
so.
your day. But I just want you to talk a little bit finally about like if somebody's interested in learning more about actually how can I make the most of AI in my business and how can I automate my workflows, because there's so much of this which is people think that they've got an idea of, oh well, I want to do X, Y, and Z, but actually it's not until they talk to somebody like you where they actually realize the full potential. It's a bit like that with tech. When people get on a consultation call with me, they come with a problem about their roadcaster, and then they leave potentially with a solution for something that they never even realized. And that's the thing, it's not just a case of like the gaps in people's knowledge where they think, oh okay, maybe I want this done. It's only when you have like a consultation call with somebody or to chat with somebody that you come and say, right, well, here's actually what I'm doing. What are ways that I could better leverage AI? And that I think is kind of like one of your superpowers, one of the many, is this ability
Oh,
to just kind of like say, oh, well, what is it you're trying to do? Oh, well, actually, have you thought about this? So maybe you could talk a little bit about like how folks can work with you to better to make
yeah,
their
sure.
self more efficient and productive, essentially.
Sure. So usually for me, it's just having a like a 10 or 15-minute connect call just on Zoom.
Hmm.
They can go through the appydave.com website. I've got to change a couple of things there, but essentially there'll be a page that you can go and just book a consultation time. We'll just have 15, 20 minutes and just talk about your problem.
Hmm.
I can give you some quick answers after that. What I generally like to do from there is just move it into more of a little bit of a focus session where we just talk deeper on options and give either point you in the right direction, or which might be to work with me, or
Hmm.
it might be to just go off and use these sorts of tools. After that, if we go deeper down that rabbit hole, it's really about mapping out the SOPs that you have,
Hmm.
the workflows that you. It's like trying to find out what one thing in your job, if you could automate it, would
Hmm.
actually save you a whole lot of time, or save you a whole lot of cost, or make you a whole lot of money, and go, is this something that we can
Yeah.
automate? Not everything. I think everything will be automatable. I don't think everything is automatable on 4th of April 2025.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe of May, but not on the 4th of April. So this is how fast AI is moving.
Hmm.
Is that it might not be automatable today, and I'll tell you if that's the case,
Hmm.
or it's too costly to do. I'll point you towards tools, or we can go down that
Hmm.
rabbit hole of how do we automate businesses.
Yeah, I think that the example that you gave of the client that you just sort of demonstrated that little thing that you put together for them. One of the and I mentioned this with me, the friction that I have in adopting specific SaaS tools or whatever that are just custom made is you've got to go through this cognitive process, a journey where you're like, okay, what does this tool you do? How do I use it? How do I pull out the bits that I want to use, and how do I apply those to my business? And there's like a huge overhead for me in any new AI tool, especially when they're all coming along. The huge advantage of what you're doing is you're not actually asking people necessarily to change their their workflows. You're asking like, well, what is it that you currently do, and how can we just make that more streamlined in a series of prompts or whatever. So there's an inherent familiarity there that it's something that's bespoke, it's something that's custom, and that it's something that's going to just do what you're already almost doing, but just do it with infinitely more efficiency. And that's the real value in it. I think is just like making you just more efficient at what you're already doing without having a huge overhead of like, oh, how do I figure out how to do this now? Not even just build it in the
Yeah.
first place, but like you're not just using some other tool and trying to shoehorn them together or cobble them together to fit into your business, as is the case with lots of these other AI tools. So there's just a huge value that you've got.
Yeah, I'd reframe that from my own point of view. So, as a computer programmer, I think people think you're there to automate stuff,
Hmm.
but a software architect has spent a lifetime in startups.
Hmm.
Startups don't have the money to automate everything,
Hmm.
so it's not about automation; it's about systematization,
Right.
which is how do you sticky tape everything together so that the job still gets done?
Yep.
That's the reality of a startup,
Hmm.
and we'll automate over time
Hmm.
as we go. And so, and that's what the fourth part of my framework is really about. It's not about that you automate everything. It's that we identify what the workflow is, we build the automations. But if you want to use Gamma AI to do your presentations, use it,
Hmm.
but use it at the end of a chain.
Yes. Yep.
Don't start from it, right?
Hmm.
So I love using tools like Gamma AI,
That is a
Napkin
great one. Yep.
AI, Notebook LM to do podcasts. You can use Jellypod to do podcasts, but I don't start with any of them.
Hmm.
They're always at the end of a chain.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks so much for spending so much time. I know when we chatted about this, literally yesterday, we're like you asked, well, we'll be able to, go for an hour or whatever, and I was saying, I think we could probably go for a day if we were left to it, just the two of us.
Yeah, fair
So,
enough.
but thanks so much for taking so much time and sharing, so many of those things, because I think it's given people, a different view on, how they can use AI in their business, and just something so much deeper than just prompting, which is, I know, the level that lots of folks are at the moment. So yeah, thanks again for taking the time.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Cool. We'll have to do it again sometime and pick it up with some other topics. Thanks so much to all of you folks for watching, and those watching on the replay. I always say I'll go and put another video here, but I think I've forgotten for weeks now. But thank you anyway for being here. I look forward to seeing you all again next time.